Hi, my name is Josue Batista. I am a business and technology strategist. Welcome to this special segment of What and Why First. It is quite special because we have a guest from Italy, Francesco. Francesco Corea is joining us today, and we're going to understand how efficient allocation of capital using artificial intelligence can help you create value. Hi, Francesco. How are you?
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for having me here.
Excellent. You should know that Francesco is a tech investor and complexity science with a technical background in AI and 5 years of experience working with startups and venture funds. So, Francesco, let's start with the basis. In your own experience and words, what is that term allocation of capital? What do you mean with that? What does that term means?
That's actually funny because I mean we just came out with this definition very recently. I'm used to say that when people ask me what I'm working on, that I explore the use of AI into the venture investment process, but eventually, like, saying efficient allocation of capital makes a lot of sense to me. And basically what I mean is giving the right amount of money to the right people who can use them better to make an impact. So it's basically finding a way to be sure that capital and people, technology, the right players can actually benefit from their capital in the right way.
Now let's add the other component, AI. So why and what of AI with allocation of capital?
That's a very good question. And actually, there are several different ways that AI can be used into an investment process. Of course, I'm specifically talking about like corporate finance related investment process, so like venture capital, private equity, that sort of field. I'm not touching right now like hedge funds and public market trading type of vehicle. When it comes to venture capital specifically, you can use AI to spot general trends, identifying market gaps, doing portfolio management in a more efficient way, trying to match deals with co-investors or with investors, generally speaking, using it for competitor landscape intelligence, try to identify acquirers or potential acquirers for your startup, doing pricing valuation in a much more efficient way. And above all, which is the one that I'm like the specific aspect that I'm mostly focusing on my research and my work, in trying to assess the probability of exit of a company. So basically finding relatively unknown startups and their probability of succeeding. So from an investment perspective, it's a way to make your the use of your capital way more efficient.
So thank you for that broad view of what the applicability of AI is for that allocation of capital. Now, I am curious, how do you get involved into this field?
How do I get involved? Well, a bit by chance, as everything in life, right? So my background is in economics and finance, originally speaking. So I did all my studies, my Ph.D. in economics. Eventually started working in machine learning, again, a bit by chance. And like 3 or 4 years ago, I ended up in London working for a venture fund there. And as soon as you start working for a venture fund, you realize, especially if you have like a data-related background, that there are things that works in a certain way, but there is no like real reason on why they should work in that way. So what I'm trying to say is that they are not like super efficient, and the fact that are working in this way today, it doesn't really mean that we cannot change it, right? And I did have this realization, this epiphany, like a few years ago, that there were like things that were not efficient, and we could do like better with data and machine learning, data science, call it whatever you feel like. And at the beginning, I started like simply playing with some data set to see if I could spot trends in those data, and it was like a good experiment. Then I actually left these things like, in my mind for some time. And like 2 years ago, I started like back working actively on this specific problem. So what I did was, first of all, studying the problem from a more academic point of view. Then eventually I implemented like a first prototype for a company trying to do what I described before. So computing probability of exit for companies at a very early stage. And eventually I started writing on these topics online. So you will be able probably to find some articles of mine talking about like the use of AI in VC. And very recently, like a few months ago, I tried to compile a full list of all the players that are operating in this space. As you might imagine, if we need to compile like an entire list of VCs, investors, that would take like ages, because I mean there are so many of them. But when it comes to data-driven investors, are not that many. And we could actually like count them literally. It wouldn't be more like the 20, 25 worldwide. So there is like another resource online that actually tells you who they are, what they do, what different approaches they have, and what they are using AI for.
So from that perspective, Francesco, given that you are in that field and it seems that you are a key player in that, I will say that it's a rising field of AI and capital allocation. How do you see this evolving over the next 2 to 3 years?
As I told you before, I'm working on this specific aspect of using AI in the venture investment process. And I know that there are other people trying to do the same. And the reason why is that is because, I mean, this is like the low-hanging fruit to some extent. I mean, this is what really venture investors want in the first place. As soon as you start working on this specific problem, you realize that it's not that easy as you imagine in the first place. And you start like, changing a bit the target of your goals in such a way that you can use what you're doing in a more efficient way. So you can adapt the use of AI to, matching a specific deal with other investors, or, I don't know, like more nuanced application where you start collecting better data on specific companies, and then eventually like use it for, not specifically for computing like a probability of exiting, but maybe simply to get in touch with the right entrepreneur before or earlier than anyone else. So in that specific sense, what I'm observing right now is that there are people trying to jump on this specific sector. So like the data-driven venture investment process or applications. Very likely over the next couple of years, there are going to be people trying to do more or less the same thing that some of us have been already tried over the last few years. Probably most of them not succeeding, and try to adapt the initial investment that they are making in this specific application into something that they can really use on a day-to-day basis. So converting the more exponential AI application, or let's try to define the way to think about something which is more like moonshot, into something that is more like workflow basis. But what I'm observing is that people right now are trying to, the ones of us that already did something in the past, we are already thinking about how can we make like the workflow of a venture fund better, rather than trying to find a super intelligent AI that will do the entire work of a venture investors for us. So in other words, we are gonna get a compromise with reality and start understanding what we can really use AI for.
Francesco, thank you. You provided some very interesting links of some of the work that you have available publicly. Francesco, thank you so much. This has been an extremely valuable opportunity to understand, number one, what you do, understand more about what really drives you as a professional. And I look forward to, in the future, understand more and learn more as to where this path is taking you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's been like a pleasure to stay in touch with you for the last few weeks. I'm going to put out there over the next few months a couple of new articles on some new studies that I just done, which will definitely be of interest of your audience, and generally speaking, because they are like a sort of like summary of the last 6-7 months of work. So it's going to be pretty intense, but stay tuned and let me know what you think.
Very good. Very good. Thanks, Francesco. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon where you are. And to all of you, until next time, cheers.
Cheers. Bye. Thank you.
Okay.